Now that we've completed phase 1, the data ask, we're now going to move on to phase 2, which is the self-assessment using the design principles rubric. At this point, you'll have already sat down on paper and talked with the staff and worked in teams to identify where your school is on each of the indicators on the design principle rubric. But this is the place where you're going to actually record your school's ratings. The first thing you're going to do here is just put in your school name. I'm going to use a basic school name, so a new school. You'll put in your actual school name here. I'll put in my staff name right here, and then my email address. And the email address here is important because you're going to receive an email with your responses after you've completed the rubric. Just a little bit of overview here. I want you to notice within LiveBinder that you'll see there are two scroll bars. There's one major one along the side and another one that's a little bit inside. And you'll have to use both of them to make sure you see the entire design principles rubric. Looking at the top here, you'll see each of the 6 design principles has their own tab, and underneath each of those tabs, you'll see the individual rows. There's also an overall summary tab, and I'm going to scroll down right now to show you what that looks like. For each design principle and each subpart, you're going to see for the row, there are blanks. That's because we have not yet put in any ratings. Once we start to populate the design principles rubric with our ratings, they will show up in the summary page. It does not matter which order you go in, but just remember that you cannot save your work, so you need to make sure that you've got your ratings in front of you and so you can log everything at the same time. So starting out with Ready for College, I'm going to assume that I've already put this, so I'm putting in my ratings from the paper copy that I have in front of me. Notice here you can click on each of the rows. You can also change those rows. And now that I've recorded everything at the bottom, I'm going to see a ratings summary for that particular design principle. This is a good way to visualize where the school's strengths and individual weaknesses are. If this were the data for my particular school, I'd notice that college credit is a very high rating and it's something that we can celebrate. But maybe college-ready skills are a little bit lower, and we want to make sure that that's an area for focus. I also want you to notice here that the colors do change if I change one of my ratings on the bottom. If I change it from Growing Innovations to Beginning, that's also going to change the indicator down here as well as the color. I'm going to do this for each of the design principles. I can go through and do Require Powerful Teaching and Learning. If I want to just do the curriculum part, though, I can do that. I can move on to personalization and put in ratings there. And notice if I go to the bottom of the page, for ratings that I have not yet put in, it's going to show no rating. And then that populates whenever I click. Due to the magic of video editing, you can see that my rubric is now complete. You can see that under each of the design principles, I've made all of my selections. I can also go back and look at the color schemes in order to think about how my final rating might come in place. For example, here in leadership, I'm seeing that our school was New Paradigms pretty well across the board. We did have some Growing Innovations, but after some further consultation with the staff, we determined that we were at New Paradigms on that design principle. And so down here in the overall summary, we can find leadership. And we're going to select that as New Paradigms. And we ask that you go ahead, and this is similar to previous year's self-assessments, that you give a final rating based on all the indicators. And so looking at each of these pieces of information, we've already discussed this as a staff. We can see where we are on each of these design principles. This will really help to communicate your school's current status and your vision for what you want to celebrate and what you want to improve with the new school staff and the rest of your school support team. I double check to make sure everything is complete. I have all of my self-assessment ratings completed with the drop-down. I also have all of the indicator rows filled out. The last step is to go down at the bottom, this magical button that says Submit Form, and when I click it, and I scroll back up to the top, I can see that thank you, my form was submitted, and you will soon receive an email with the summary of your results.